residents of the universe. My name is AJ. Welcome to Ways to Human. Recently, someone asked me to make a video about how we become who we are. That is a tall order, but I will give it a shot. Today, we will be delving into the intricate web of childhood trauma and its effects on the developing brain. This is a complex topic, but I will do my best to explain it in simple terms, drawing from insights shared by experts, since I am not a medical professional. So remember, these are evidence-based facts backed by science and not my personal opinions. Childhood is a critical period for brain development. It's when the majority of the neural foundations for adult behavior is formed. During this time, the brain is incredibly flexible and absorbent, like a sponge. First, let's define trauma. We often think of trauma as a violent experience, but trauma can come in many different forms. The following will all be considered trauma for a child: physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, neglect, or their basic needs not being met, a parent with an alcohol or drug addiction, a parent with a mental illness like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, or severe depression, medical trauma such as surgeries, cancer treatment, or having a loved one with complex medical issues, a parent going to jail, living in a dysfunctional household, unstable housing, moving a lot, living in a shelter, being homeless, moving to another state or country, bullying, domestic violence, either as a victim or watching a family member being abused, witnessing other forms of violence in their community like gang activity, shootings, or terrorist attacks, experiencing a major natural disaster, parents divorcing, loss, abandonment, a parent passing away, other deaths in the family like a friend or a pet. These are only some examples. When children experience trauma, it can have a profound and lasting effect on their brain development. Exposure to chronic stress or trauma can disrupt the brain's stress response system, leading to dysregulation of key neurobiological pathways. This chronic activation can lead to changes in the structure and the function of three key brain regions: the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the prefrontal cortex. Let's discuss each one separately. First, the prefrontal cortex, also called the personality center. This is the last part of the brain to mature by age 25. It's what makes you, you. It plays a critical role in impulse control, decision making, and executive functioning, a skill that helps people control their behavior and achieve goals. When trauma disrupts the prefrontal cortex, it can lower or shut down its function, impairing concentration, emotional regulation, and cognitive function, such as reasoning, critical thinking, memory, imagination, learning words, or using language. Next is the hippocampus. This part of the brain is heavily involved in the formation of new memories, helps convert short-term memories into long-term memories. Research suggests that it also plays a role in regulating emotions, particularly in response to stress and anxiety. Imaging studies shows that the hippocampus actually shrinks due to severe repeated trauma. This makes it harder for it to process memories and distinguish past from present. This is actually what a flashback is. You're experiencing a memory that feels like it's happening right now, because your hippocampus is basically malfunctioning. Lastly, the amygdala is responsible for processing emotions and threat detection. Think of the amygdala as the brain's smoke alarm. When exposed to repeated trauma or danger, such as a drunken abusive parent, the amygdala is constantly turning on the alarm, triggering a physical response, becoming overstimulated and hyperactive. Studies have shown that childhood trauma is associated with an increased size in the amygdala, and an enlarged amygdala is associated with behavioral disorders such as anxiety and depression. As a side note, the amygdala has also been shown to be more enlarged in autistic children. Now, all three of these brain regions that we just discussed interact with one another. They modulate emotional responses and regulate stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. During times of trauma, they undergo physical structural changes, which has been shown in imaging and blood work. The brain adapts to experiences. The more severe the trauma, the more the brain has to mold to cope. Through this complex process happening in different parts of the brain, memories connect to physical responses, and over time, the responses become automated. But when the child grows into an adult, the neural connections created remain. Even after a direct threat is gone, people will continue to experience triggers stemming from those connections created in childhood. So any reminder of their abuser or trauma will trigger a real physical response, making them feel exactly as they did during the experience. Triggers include someone's physical appearance, like a beard or hairstyle, scent or perfume, clothing style, a place, or an item. Symptoms of a trauma response can include racing heartbeat, fast breathing, sweaty palms, shaking, high or low blood pressure, inability to think clearly, dizziness, nausea, and sometimes even dissociation. There are other childhood experiences that may not seem as traumatic as physical abuse, but they are just as effective in shaping the brain and therefore the way that you respond to the world around you. For example, our parents' parenting style has a tremendous effect in shaping the adults that we turn into. Attachment theory offers insight into how early childhood relationships shape brain development. According to attachment theory, children form bonds with their caregivers. These can be parents, grandparents, or anyone who raises them. These bonds play a crucial role in regulating emotions and behaviors. Experts have come up with 4 attachment styles. Number 1 is the secure attachment. Children with secure attachment styles feel safe and confident in exploring their environment, knowing that their caregiver will provide comfort and support if they need it. They seek proximity to their caregivers when distressed, but they can easily separate and explore when they feel secure. As adults, securely attached individuals tend to develop trusting and healthy relationships. They have learned that they can rely on others for support and comfort. They generally are more resilient and better equipped to handle stress and adversity. This attachment style develops when children are raised in a loving home with emotionally available caregivers. Number 2 is the anxious attachment. This is also called ambivalent insecure attachment. Children with anxious attachment styles are often preoccupied with their caregivers' availability and responsiveness. They may cling to them in an attempt to seek reassurance, and they may still feel insecure and doubt that their caregivers will be reliable. Research consistently linked this attachment style to mothers not being available during childhood. As adults, individuals with anxious attachment style struggle with low self-esteem and fear rejection or abandonment in relationships. They may exhibit clingy or dependent behavior, heightened levels of anxiety, distress in relationships, and they can become very distraught when a relationship ends. Number 3 is the dismissive avoidance attachment. Children with this attachment style tend to avoid or minimize emotional closeness with their caregivers. They may appear independent and self-sufficient, often avoiding seeking comfort from others. This develops due to consistent rejection, neglect, or emotional unavailability from their caregivers. The lack of responsiveness and support can lead children to learn to suppress their emotions and become self-reliant to cope with the unmet emotional needs. As adults, individuals with dismissive, avoidant attachment styles may struggle with intimacy. They are unable to be vulnerable in relationships. They may prioritize independence, avoiding close emotional connections to protect themselves from potential hurt or rejection. They engage in more casual sexual relationships and they experience little distress when a relationship ends. Because of the extreme neglect, and lack of love, they may overcompensate with narcissistic patterns, or they may seem very self centered. The fourth and last one is called disorganized attachment. Children with this attachment style experience conflicting feelings of both attachment and avoidance towards their caregiver. They may exhibit erratic or unpredictable behavior, alternating between seeking closeness and withdrawing. Research suggests that inconsistent behavior on the part of the caregivers might be a contributing factor because the child feels both comforted and frightened by the parent. This confusion results in a disorganized emotional bond. As adults, individuals with disorganized attachment styles may struggle with trust and intimacy in relationships, often feeling torn between a desire for connection and their fear of rejection or betrayal. They may have difficulty regulating emotions and experience challenges in forming stable and secure relationships. These examples show us trauma isn't left behind. What happens in childhood doesn't stay in childhood. It integrates deep into the brain and nervous system, shaping the brain's neural pathways. Imagine your brain as a computer. You configure the settings, and then the computer uses the same settings to respond to input every single time. Childhood is where this happens. How you navigate relationships, how you trust, love, hate, the way that you treat others, what God you believe or don't believe in, the decisions that you make, they all go back to your childhood. Every single experience in childhood, good or bad, configure the settings into your brain, which shape the adult that you are today, for better or for worse. So from now on, remember everyone you meet has been through a unique journey. Show compassion and understanding by considering the experiences that made them who they are today. And if you have children, know that you are in charge of shaping adults. It's essential to keep in mind while no one chooses their childhood, their parents, their environment, the religion that is indoctrinated upon them, their cultural norms, or the experiences they're exposed to. If you're struggling today due to trauma, there is hope. There is something called neuroplasticity. This is the ability of the brain's neural networks to change through growth and reorganization. It has been widely studied, and research shows it can be accomplished by therapy, medication when needed, supportive relationships, and new positive experiences. So despite your past, you can now choose healing. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like and subscribe.